Chapter 4. Hours later, Terra's mind was still muddled by thoughts of how best to manage her situation, but her pain and anguish had slowly given rise to a sort of reflective, accusatory anger. Hunger was beginning to rear its head too, and she now stood near a trash can in the alleyway, across the street from the gas station, wondering what to do for more food. All the while, her mind continued to ruminate on her experiences of the past few weeks. What happened to my perfect little life? She looked over at the store and the gas station, sure she could find something there. Anything would do to help her growing hunger. Is this how bad things have gotten? I'm contemplating shoplifting just to eat something? Desperate times. Just a few weeks ago, she was happier than she'd ever thought possible. And now look at her, struggling to survive, with no home and no family. Terra thought about never seeing Mark again, and about how he would never get to see their child. What was it that he said that night about spending time with his son? Yeah, God willing. That's what he said. What made him say that? Did he sense it? What kind of sick, twisted God would let this happen anyway? What kind of benevolent creator would take my husband from me and leave my unborn child and me on the streets with nothing to eat? It's just not fair. As she fumed at God for her situation, her thoughts were interrupted by a fresh, strong jolt in her belly. Was it from the baby or a hunger pang? She wasn't even sure anymore. Discouraged and out of breath, she slowly sank to the ground, sitting with her back resting on the wall in the alleyway, rubbing her belly for comfort. She was no longer sure if she was comforting herself, or if the baby was comforting her, or if she was comforting the baby. It was simply an indescribably hellish, unthinkable pain that burned through every fiber of her being. But she realized that rubbing her unborn child was more than comfort. It was also reassurance for her. It was something to hold on to in a time when she had nothing else. She had to remind herself why she was fighting to survive. And the baby was her savior, her only reason to keep on breathing. In the front passenger seat of a van traveling down the highway, another woman was also sitting, looking out the window and thinking about how her life had recently changed for the worse. Devon glanced into the side mirror and sighed at the state of what she saw. She was young and she knew she'd always been beautiful with her sun-kissed skin and bouncy hair. But now her eyes didn't match the beauty. They'd aged along with the skin around them. And now she looked old, weary, and desolate, telling a story much darker than she was, one of extraordinary skill and experience, and of course the recent sharp turn of events. In contrast to the young, better-dressed Devon, the only other occupant of the van was a frumpy-looking man with an air of authority about him. His eyes were focused on the road as he turned the van off the highway, and Devon could tell he was hardly paying attention to the radio as he switched between channels. He finally settled on a channel where a male news anchor was covering the headlines. In more recent news, a group of scientists has confirmed that a meteor impact is responsible for the worldwide events experienced a month ago. They've concluded that the impact knocked the planet temporarily off its axis, leading to the suspension of the Earth's gravitational field. This is said to be responsible for the mass loss of consciousness as well as the disappearance of a large portion of the Earth's population. Other scientific voices refuse to comment on the hypothesis. Devon returned her gaze to the van's interior, giving her companion a knowing look and shaking her head. A female co-anchor had begun to speak as Devon focused her attention more closely on the radio broadcast. Don't know about that, Bill. Seems a little too convenient, if you ask me. Many people are already seriously considering this some kind of alien attack and even petitioning local elected officials to carry their concerns all the way to Washington. Aliens, that's almost as absurd as the religious types calling this the Rapture or the end of days. If you ask me, they should all be institutionalized as soon as possible. Both reporters laughed at this. Is this what passes for professional reporting, Isaac? Devon asked. Isaac shrugged, gripping the wheel, slowing down to make a right turn into an otherwise deserted gas station. It's probably more of a daytime opinion show than a reputable news report. Not to take away from the decline of journalism either way. It's a dying art, Isaac replied. The van came to a stop beside one of the pumps, and Isaac got out first. We need to refuel, and I need to find a bathroom, said Isaac. But aren't gas station bathrooms always filthy? Devon questioned. Don't remind me. Then why don't you just go outside behind the building? I wasn't raised in a barn, Isaac responded. Devon rolled her eyes. Look, it's more hygienic and more sensible to go outside, but hey, suit yourself. Just make sure you use my sanitizer afterwards. I'll fill up the tank while you're inside. Save us a few minutes, Devon insisted. Isaac turned and walked toward the convenience store attached to the gas station, and Devon started to refuel the van. Grabbing a bag of chips from her book bag, she leaned on the van, eating them slowly, taking in her surroundings as she waited for Isaac to return. Her mind wandering, she stood there until something in her peripheral vision across the street caught her attention. A shabbily dressed woman was sitting on the ground in the alleyway between the bakery and the lounge beside it. Her appearance was exhausted, and it was clear that she was thin around the face. In fact, every part of her looked malnourished, except she appeared to have the well-rounded belly of a woman several months into expecting a baby. Devon's eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. At that point, Isaac returned to the van with a bag of chips and a large bottle of still water. Seemed to me like the bag of chips was a good call. I had to make a purchase before I could access their facilities, and Isaac explained. Isaac! Devon's hand waved haphazardly, urgently in the air between them. Isaac, look! Isaac looked a bit annoyed at being so casually interrupted, but the look on Devon's face told him that there was a reason for it. A far greater reason than him explaining in detail his bathroom exploits and purchases. What's wrong? Isaac asked, following the direction in which her finger was pointing. Devon didn't answer, just continued pointing in the direction she'd been looking without even turning to face Isaac. He screwed up his eyes and squinted. Things are hard for everyone right now, he said, looking back at Devon. Some more than others. That's always been the case, but things are a lot worse now, all around. We cannot let ourselves, Isaac replied. No, Isaac, Devon said, looking at him and gesturing pointedly at the woman yet again. Look closely. Without having much of a choice, Isaac looked at the destitute woman once more. He flinched, clearly finally seeing what Devon's excitement had been all about. Oh, my lord. She's, Isaac remarked. Yes, Devon confirmed. Pregnant, Isaac said, finishing the train of thought despite the interruption. I don't believe it. We have to help her, Isaac, Devon requested. I know what you think about the risks and everything, but what if that was me and my kid, your kid? Isaac let out a long breath. I know what you're doing, trying to atone for lives that you've taken. But this isn't the way. You can't help everyone, Devon. You know that already. We've talked about it, and you know that better than most. Besides, how do we know she even wants our help? Isaac said directly. Call it a gut feeling if you like. Besides, she's not everyone. She's pregnant. We have to help her, Isaac. Look at her. She's clearly suffering. And in her condition, Devon replied, it's getting cold. Devon left the implications of her statement in the air. But thankfully, Isaac seemed to understand. His face softened, and he conceded. Yes, I guess you're right, Isaac said. But how do you propose we approach her? Devon hadn't thought this far ahead, unconvinced Isaac would even agree with her thought. She shrugged, and they both stood there, observing the woman for a while, thinking of the best way to go about it. They needed to be tactful but also assertive in their approach, convincing her that they could genuinely help her out and that she would be safe with them. These days, where was safety? Where could you find compassion or understanding? Where had all these gone? Had they been swallowed up along with all the disappearances? Every person in every place seemed to only look out for itself. No one cared about anyone else. Suddenly, the woman rose to her feet and began to move with a sense of purpose. Let's follow her, find out where she goes. Don't want her to feel threatened, Isaac suggested before climbing into the van. Devon joined him, strapping in, nodding in agreement. Terra was still unsure where to go when she realized that, limited as they were, she wasn't out of options, and with the weather getting more frigid, she had to act on her best option quickly. She suddenly remembered that she had the cash inside her coat pocket that the officer had handed her earlier. The amount wasn't substantial, and it wouldn't get her much at the store, but she'd been in such despair that even this seemingly minor stroke of fortune amidst a sea of pain and suffering lifted her spirits immediately. Not by much, but enough to get her mind thinking again. I won't last long on the streets in my current state. Where could I possibly go? And then it dawned on her. Home. Terra realized that she'd only just been evicted, and the door was only lazily sealed off with some flimsy keep-off tapes and a notice hastily placed upon it. It'll probably be days or even weeks before anyone bothers to check up on it. I could go back and stay there anyway, despite the eviction. Certainly beats living on the streets. No matter what they do to me, it can't be worse. Can it? And anyway, if they take me away and lock me up, it's a bed. Terra reflected on the legality of her decision to break into the house for a moment and considered the possible implications of getting arrested, but brushed it all aside. Desperate people in desperate situations do desperate things. It's a victimless crime, if it can even be called criminal to begin with. Besides, all my stuff is still there. I may as well go back. Terra glanced at the money in her hand, more than enough to get her home on the bus and then, if she had to take a second bus someplace else if, or when, she got evicted again. She still had a few leftover crackers in her kitchen cabinet at home. Right now, that felt like a feast. There would be tea bags in the cupboard and milk in the refrigerator. Home first, where it's warmer. Then the possibility of finally finding food, no matter how little. Pocketing the cash, she sprang up, feeling better for finally having a destination again. A destination she was familiar with. She was even looking forward to forcing open her own door and seeing all those familiar surroundings again. It had been such a short time away, but too long already.